This is the Real Positive Girl podcast, and I am your host, Sabrina. I am here chatting with you about emotions, mental health struggles, and how to take those first few steps towards being more vulnerable, being more honest, especially with yourself, and being more self aware. The key to so many things. And we do that 2 times a week here. So if you're new, welcome on in. Today, we are going to take a chat about you get what you tolerate. But before we get into that, let me just ask you a question. Have we become friends online yet? Like, really, have we become friends online yet? If yes, let's make it more real by sending me a message and saying hi, hello, and so we can chat if you'd like. That'd be really awesome. I would really love that, but I understand if you don't. But I would just love that to make that a little bit more real. If not, if you haven't come to say hi, make that more real, check the show notes below for my name on socials. I'm at Sabrina Joy Perozzo on both Instagram and TikTok. And then on Twitter, if you're into that, I am at Real Sabrina Joy. So come say hi, friends. And then I have one more question for you. Just one more. Have you signed up for the weekly newsletter? Yeah. Or a suggested topic that I should talk about? Or have you checked out the Planner Journal Hybrid that is now for sale on Amazon? If not, I would just encourage you to take a peek at the show notes and you will find all the links to all those things down there. So whether it's taking a pause and looking now or while you're listening or even at the end of the show, just take a peek. Don't forget, there's lots of goodies down there. And one last thing is that I'm also asking for anyone that would like to support my goal of sharing mental health and mindset content online and going full time to become a monthly donor over on Patreon. The link for that is in the show notes as well. So check all that out, and I look forward to meeting you on socials. But now let's go ahead and chat about you get what you tolerate. Stop putting up with other people's crap. So I'm going to talk to you about something that will be, just as much of a reminder for me as it will for you, because it's something many of us struggle with on and off, not always consistently, sometimes yes, maybe no. But before we get into it, which, yes, the hint is, it is the topic of the episode. But before we get into that, let's chat about the importance of not putting off taking care of yourself. Yep, you heard me right. Not putting off the importance of, the importance of not putting off taking care of yourself. So no one else in this world, in this entire tiny, huge, overwhelming world, clouds and sky and water and all, is going to prioritize you taking away from all the things you do on a daily basis to take care of yourself. Right? There's no one else that's going to do that. There's no one else that's going to actually prioritize and look at your schedule and be like, where should we fit in, time to take care of ourselves, to administer some self-care or downtime or me time, however way that you prefer to categorize this, whatever you choose. But I am telling you this because we often allow ourselves to tolerate what we don't want. And yes, we will get to the meat of the topic here very, 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 very shortly. We will. But yeah, we often allow ourselves to tolerate what we don't want in our lives. Reflect back if you don't think that's true, because I am sure it's true for everyone. Because we don't stop to take care of ourselves. We don't stop to take care of ourselves. So we tolerate so much crap in the world. We write it on a list to take care of ourselves. We're like, oh, let me just pencil in self-care, but it's always at the bottom of the list. And Lord knows that we rarely get to the bottom of the list. And when we do, it is a celebration. And then we're thinking, well, instead of self-care, I'm going to go and do something else or do nothing at all, which I feel like is a form of self-care. So, let's understand what we're talking about here. And I want you to realize that it's a real, R-E-A-L, real responsibility that must be done, because no one else really cares if you make it a priority in your life or not. I'll say it again. No one really cares. They really don't, if you make it a priority in your life. And yes, I know there might be people in your life, my husband sometimes does this, is included in this group, that will give you reminders that you should take some time off, or you should take an hour every day for yourself. My husband is often like, you should go lay down and relax or take a bath or whatever I like to do. He's like, why don't you go do that? Right? And so it's really nice that they will, these people in our lives sometimes will provide us with a reminder that, hey, you haven't told me that you've done any sort of self care thing. Why don't you go do that? But they can't make you do it. They can't like force you to do it. No one can force anyone to do anything. You still can choose. So the responsibility is still on you. It's on you, pointing right at you. The responsibility is still on you, despite having other people say you should, watching commercials on TV, listening to them anywhere, everywhere. You know, everything in our house, listening to everything we're saying, and maybe serving you an ad somewhere saying, hey, you should take care of yourself. And you still might not, because you think it's going to happen magically and all come together and amazingness. It won't. It won't. It's still on you. The correlation is there, okay? Now, if you're still looking for it, I'm just going to tell you, you can just believe it's there between taking care of ourselves and tolerating the crap around us. If you tolerate whatever people throw at you, it's often due to a lack of take care of me time, self-care time, whatever we want to call it, because you haven't spent a moment away from your everyday life to evaluate if it's still working for you, right? Yes. This is a big revelation. When you're dabbling in self-care time, you should also be evaluating the way your life currently runs and whether or not that is still working for you. It might not. The whole exercise of thinking like, is my life still are these things still working? Like, I think that's a whole episode in itself. If you agree, let me know. Socials, email, whatever. Because a lot of times we get stuck in a rut and we wonder why things aren't changing, why we're not growing, why life isn't getting better. It's because we're doing the same old crap again and again and again. Nothing's changing. And we can't expect to have changes in our life if we're not changing, changing. So there is a correlation between you taking care of yourself, which is allowing yourself to take a step back and like widen your perspective. Like, oh my gosh, if I wasn't doing this, then I wouldn't have to tolerate this and all of these things. So please, I beg of you, let's make an actual thing. Let's make it an actual thing that we have to do for ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to administer self-care in these moments of downtime, me time, whatever. We have to. It's not like we should. We'll get around to it. No, we have to. And I suggest the cadence to be at least monthly. Some will prefer weekly. That's up to you. You make that choice. Just make it happen. Okay? Just make the self-care happen. Okay? Please and thank you. Now let's chat tolerating other people's crap, okay? Because I'm sure that's what a lot of us came in here and you're like, Sabrina, I was definitely not expecting you to give me a lecture on taking care of myself and self-care, but you know what? You're welcome. Probably needed it. I know I need the reminder, probably quarterly. Probably quarterly. So I want you to begin by admitting that sometimes it's necessary. I'm going to admit that to you. I want you to admit it to yourself if you haven't already. Or maybe you're already like, Sabrina, this is like the first thing I said when I started to listen to this episode. Sometimes tolerating other people's crap is necessary. Yes, I know. I do know. Sometimes you have to, what I like to call, play the game to get past it. Then solve the problem, Then solve the problem. So it's like you have to play the game, get through whatever bullcrap is happening, and then solve the problem so that you don't have to tolerate it anymore. But you have to like get through the game to have the widest chance of making change. I get it. I have to do it on the regular at work. I'm sure a lot of us do. But I don't think that should be the excuse we use all the time, because more often than not, it's really just you taking abuse because you haven't decided to stand up for yourself yet. And no matter how long it's been for you, I'm going to say yet forever, because I'm waiting on you to do that, to stand up for yourself and be like, okay, listen, this is no longer tolerated. So I understand that sometimes we have to tolerate it, and it's a temporary period and it should not be long term. But there is still an end goal of being like, okay, well, now that time has come to an end. But we can't just be like, oh, we have to tolerate it in every part of our life forever and use that excuse. It gets old and it's not true all the time. So let's stop lying to ourselves, okay? When we decide to tolerate what is happening around us, we are allowing those actions and behaviors to be enabled. And I think one of the worst things we can be is an enabler of what people are doing and how they're acting, especially if we do have some sort of say in the matter or any sort of influence, right? But if we just allow it to happen, we're enabling it. It's literally a conversation I have almost weekly, maybe every like bi-weekly, about people at my job. And some people just like are so lazy about it. They just want to like enable people, you know? You might think that tolerating what's happening is the best response because then you don't have to deal with drama or involvement, right? You just you just enable them. You're just like, whatever. I don't want to get caught up in some more stuff. If this is your reason, I bet you've never thought about how all actions or lack of actions have consequences. So if you do something, there could be a possible consequence. And sometimes it's a good one and sometimes a bad one. You know what I mean? I know that consequences is more of like a negative connotation, but the consequences of holding the door open for someone could be like you're getting a thank you. You know what I mean? So it's like actions, consequences. Lack of actions, there's also consequences. I don't think that we often think about it that way. That if we do nothing, then we think nothing will happen. But that's not true. If we do nothing, more things actually are liable to happen because you didn't do anything to stop it, right? And if you do nothing, it continues to happen. Whatever you're tolerating continues to happen. It's not going to stop. If you stand up for it, though, you could possibly create possible. I'm definitely highlighting that word because I'm not making any promises here. I'm just saying that if there is the high possibility that you will create positive change. You could possibly create positive change. How amazing is that? And I know the other classic reason we tolerate things is because we don't believe we could do anything to create any sort of change. I definitely camp out in that one often. But it's important to realize that whether the change happens or not, whether this person changes or stops doing this or whatever, you still did something if you stood up to it, and that matters. Whether it had any sort of impact at all, that you in your heart were like, listen, we got to do something. Let's step up, let's step out, let's say this is not good. You do what you need to do, and then it turns out to be nothing. Regardless, you did something. You may have planted a seed that won't grow for a while, but you did something as opposed to nothing. And that's the point. We need to be doing something. Something else that can happen when we tolerate what is happening around us is having to sometimes endure emotional and physical pain within our relationships. And this isn't just romantic relationships, it's all types of relationships. It could be relationships with friends or family members, people at work, people in volunteer groups, friend, like whatever level of a different kind of relationship at all, it's all included. The longer that we allow whatever is happening to go on, the harder it will be to turn things around. Thinking of that song, turn around. You know that song. I can't sing it. We're just waiting. We're waiting, We're just like thinking, oh, eventually it'll become too much and it'll turn itself around. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. The longer we allow something to happen, the harder it will be to turn things around. It will also get more difficult to distinguish between what you know to be appropriate and what's not. The longer you tolerate something, the more you buy into it, right? The more you're like, oh, no, this is okay because I'm used to it because this is like a pattern now. This is an experience. This is almost like Stockholm Syndrome where we're just like, indoctrinated into this idea of belief and action. We're just like, this is just behavior. This is just the way it is now. This is what we do. So you want to shake yourself up, wake yourself up, and be like, oh no, this is not what I want. I don't want to buy into this. And then army crawl your way out. So you have to just like know that it could absolutely just destroy relationships or make it so much harder to be caught up in the web of those and not be able to escape if we're not aware of how we need to stop tolerating other people's crap. And here is where I mention how important it is to not tolerate our own behaviors and actions that we know we shouldn't be doing. There was no like smooth transition that I cared to put in here to jump from talking about tolerating things in relationships to tolerating things in ourselves. It just needs to flatly be said. By tolerating behavior that isn't beneficial to others and possibly hurts others around us, we get in the way of our own personal growth, Tolerating behavior that is not beneficial to us and others. Sorry, I forgot to say to us. I just realized it. And I was like, wait, that doesn't sound right in my brain. But by tolerating behavior that isn't beneficial to us and others and possibly hurts others, yeah, we get in the way of our own personal growth and our ability to reach our fullest potential. We're just like standing right in front of where we need to be, bodyguard style, like, no, girl, you ain't going. And we're like, why? Because you're doing all these things that are silly and you need to stop doing. And you're like, oh gosh, okay. So we can't tolerate these ridiculous behaviors and actions that we know we're doing and we shouldn't be doing. We're doing it anyway. We need to give it up. How are we going to reach our fullest potential and have so much growth if we don't? Right? Think about that. Even the smallest things we truly don't believe will get in the way of anything, need to be checked and not tolerated. Because once you start taking shortcuts and making allowances with something, you open the door for it to happen all the time. All the time. Right? You're just like, okay, well, we did it here once. We'll do it again. It'll be okay. No more after this. Then you just continue doing it until it becomes a habit. And then it's like, there's no saving you because it's just the way it is now, right? It's tough. So it's really important for us to not tolerate what's happening around us, but also what's happening in us. That needs to just be like, we gotta be done. You're done here. So that brings me to what we can do to help us not tolerate what's happening around us and to us. And when I say to us, meaning like we're doing it to ourselves, not anyone else. We're not blaming anyone else. So I want to give you 6 tips on how to stop tolerating everything, because that encompasses both what you're doing and what other people are doing, okay? But before we jump into this, as always, I want to let you know that the advice and the tips I'm about to give you are all based on my own knowledge and research and experiences and the experiences of others that I'm allowed to share. And if you find the tips I'm about to give you do not align with what you believe will help you to stop tolerating all this crap that's happening, then I encourage you to seek out a counselor or a therapist and find what would align best with you to help you stop tolerating crap, because that's what the goal is. And if you can't get it from me, I want you to get it from someone. And if you don't want to do that, then I suggest that you go to our best friend, Google, and type in how to stop tolerating everything, and then you could read lots of articles and blogs and watch other people's videos and figure out what you need to do. Because I'm not going to tell you that the tips and advice that I have are the best ones or the only right ones or the only thing you need. You have to decide what you believe is best for you, make those decisions, trial and error, whatever. I'm just here to present what I believe would be the most helpful for you to start with. So, okay, let's jump into it. Again, 6 tips on how to stop tolerating everything. So the first one is to create and enforce personal boundaries. Create and enforce personal boundaries. So what does this mean? You gotta create some personal boundaries if you don't already have them, or maybe you have them and you just don't enforce them. So you need to make sure that you're being assertive and you stand firm in your decisions. People are going to try to manipulate you into thinking a different way or thinking that they are special so that the rules should not apply to them, but they need to apply to everyone else. It's a very specific type of manipulation that happens often because they're like, oh my gosh, but we're blood, we're friends, we're married, whatever. Yet, so they're trying to bypass the boundaries. And then I give them free reign to do whatever they want because remember, by you saying, oh yeah, you're right, I don't have to enforce the boundaries to you. It's a dangerous game you're playing. You're playing with fire, like literal fire. So don't do that. Be assertive and stand firm in your decisions and remind yourself that it's for your own safety and stability, mental, emotional, physical stability, that you enforce your personal boundaries. Let people know when they're drawing the line. Don't accept their sob story as an excuse for why they don't need to adhere to the boundaries, and be on your way. Be on your way. So create and enforce personal boundaries because then you will enforce those and not tolerate things that are happening around you because you've already set a boundary that's just not acceptable to you for whatever reasons that you have. And hopefully by doing that, that'll encourage other people and motivate them to also not tolerate those same things. Number 2, don't wait to address things. Don't wait to address things. Don't put off saying something, Don't put it off. Don't be like, oh, I'll do it next time. And then next time comes and you're like, I'll do it next time. And then next time comes. Don't put it off. I know it can be scary sometimes to be the opposite opinion of something everyone else is enjoying, It's like party time for them and you're like, this is ridiculous. But it's necessary. And that situation might be meant for you to do it. It might be like part of your journey, your destiny, whatever you want to call it, to stand up for yourself and go and address the situation that you think needs to be addressed by being like, we cannot tolerate this behavior anymore. Please stop doing it. I know everyone here wants to do it or is going to turn a blind eye, but we need to stop doing it. Don't wait to address things. Address them as they come, as it happens, because it's fresh in your mind, the reasons why and what you want to do, and then you won't chicken out of it. So don't wait to address things. Just do it when you can. Face your fear, push forward, and stop tolerating other people's crap. Okay, number 3. Practice self-awareness. What does Sabrina shout from the rooftops? Besides, mistakes and failures are our best learning lessons. Self-awareness. Self-awareness is the best. It's our bestie, guys. Self-awareness needs to be your bestie, and if it's not, you better saddle up. You better saddle up and get ready because it has to be. It's like one of the most beneficial, like, what would you call that? Skills, abilities to become self-aware and practice it. You'll benefit from being more in tune with your behaviors, your feelings, your actions, your thoughts when you are practicing being self-aware, so as to keep any of your own behaviors in line and not tolerate anything unnecessary from yourself. So don't short-sight yourself and think that, oh no, it doesn't matter what I do. I don't need to really think it through. It's fine. I got to focus on everyone else, especially if you're like a people pleaser. No, don't short-sight yourself. Like, definitely, keep your own behaviors in check, in line. Like, really reflect on, am I doing what I need to be doing right now? Or maybe I need to be doing something else. Maybe because life has shifted, I need to go along with that shift and understand that this is no longer necessary or helpful, and we need to move forward. You know what I mean? So practice self-awareness, be in tune with how you're feeling, really go along with accepting and honoring all your emotions, and maybe not necessarily acting on them if it's not needed, and then really understand what needs to be cut out or done away with, because it's not something that you need to tolerate anymore. It's no longer beneficial. It's actually detrimental. So practice self-awareness. Number 4, Reflect on past instances of tolerance. Reflect on past instances of tolerance. Think back to any times in the past when you tolerated behavior that you shouldn't have. Shouldn't have tolerated like any sort of, you know, verbal or physical abuse, or being degraded, or being prejudiced against, or whatever. You like reflect on times where we did allow things to just carry on and we know we shouldn't have, and then remind yourself of the pain it caused you then and maybe others around you if it's more of like a dissociated memory, and relive, reliving those experiences in your mind should really be motivation enough to try your best to do something about it now. Do something about it now. Really think it through, right? Think like, okay, I definitely need to no longer tolerate this behavior that's happening at work here. And because the last time that I didn't do anything about it, it turned into a big drama and fiasco, and I don't really want that. Maybe that'll happen this time, but at least I won't be like super involved, right? So reflect on past instances of tolerance, of when you did tolerate stuff that you shouldn't have, and how bad that was, and how let's not do that again. It's just not. Okay? Number 5, be cognizant of who you spend time with. Be cognizant of who you spend time with. Birds of a feather flock together. Your group of friends, the people you spend time with, whether you have like a really core group or you just see people at certain events, certain, gatherings, experiences, still be very aware of who they are, what they're all about, how they're living their life, whether your values and beliefs align up with theirs and the things that they're doing because you're doing what they're doing. Really try to figure it out. Determine if the people you spend your time with are still good for this season of life. Because maybe they're not, right? It's normal to have different friends during different times of life. Even if one friendship takes a pause until the appropriate season to reunite comes along. And I've had that happen many times where there's a friend of mine that we were friends in high school, that's how we met. And then we weren't friends because we went separate ways. But then she lived near where I lived. And then we became friends again because she moved into our rental. And then she moved out. She moved with other people. And then we weren't really friends because there was a lot of distance and time in between us. And then she moved closer and we were friends again. And we're still kind of friends. But we're in a different season of life where everyone's working really, really, really hard. So I don't see her a lot. But you see what I mean? It's just sometimes there are these waves where we're in and out of people's lives and we'll come back at some point. And then there's times where we just cut it off because we know that it's no longer beneficial to us and do not see it being beneficial in the future. However, even if you decide to cut a relationship off and you're just oh, we're done here, it could still change in the future if that person changes and grows and becomes their best self, right? And striving for that every single day, then maybe you could restart, rekindle, regrow that relationship. That's fine. I'm not saying that you can't do that. It's just really important to be cognizant of the people that you're surrounding yourself with right now, because you will take on those behaviors and mannerisms and thought patterns and beliefs, because those are the things you're hearing on the regular. And then you could get caught up in tolerating stuff that you don't want to tolerate, and you didn't initially before you decided to go all in on this crew. So be cognizant of who you spend your time with, because they have such a big influence on who you are and what you're all about. And that's really important. It's a big responsibility that you're handing over to someone for reals. So be cognizant of who you spend time with. And number 6, the final one, use the phrase, "you get what you tolerate," as a mantra. Use the phrase, "you get what you tolerate," as a mantra. If you're ever not sure what to do, or you find yourself in a crappy situation and don't understand how you got there and want to figure out how to get out, remind yourself of this phrase. Remind yourself that and memorize it. You get what you tolerate. So you're tolerating someone's bad behavior, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get that bad behavior because you're tolerating it. You're allowing it to happen. And don't come at me with like, oh, I'm scared, I'm afraid that bad things might happen. Then enlist help. Figure out a different way to go about it. Face your fears if it's safe enough for you to do so. You get what you tolerate. If you do it enough, say this phrase, you get what you tolerate, you will ignite power in yourself to do what you can to change what's happening around you and no longer tolerate what's going on. You will ignite a power in yourself. It'll become this phrase that you tell yourself every single day, multiple times a day. And then it'll just become this thing that's like right off the tongue, right off the top of your head. And then you will feel power when you say that because you're like, I know. You get what you tolerate, and I'm not tolerating this because I don't want it. That's how you're thinking, right? So, really use it to your disposal. Use it as like this amazing phrase that you can call upon, affirmation, motivational quote, whatever, and remind yourself of like you get what you tolerate. So if you're tolerating something in your life right now that you really wish you weren't, then stop. And yes, I know it'll be very difficult to stop and just break away. You can take baby steps towards it, towards not tolerating it, speeding up a little bit more and more and more each time. And then, putting your full force and belief behind it and getting it to, budge as much as you can, right? So think about that. You get what you tolerate. Make that a mantra that's stuck in your brain forever and evermore, just like the birthday song. Make it a song. Get what you tolerate. You get what you tolerate. Okay, so just think about that. Use the phrase, get what you tolerate, as a mantra. And that is all six. That is all six of the tips that I wanted to give you today to address how to stop tolerating other people's crap, how to stop tolerating everything. Because whether it's other people or it's yourself, you need to let it go. No more enabling. Let's go against enabling. So that's everything. And I thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast again with me, Sabrina. Remember, I asked you to check the show notes below. Check out all the links, all the things, the wonderful things you can do down there. You can actually read the show notes. They're really helpful. They're really great. If you ever needed to like pass someone along some notes on this topic, bam, there you are. And then for them to get the elaboration, then you can just point them towards the podcast and then they will listen. That'll be great. Hopefully. So think about that. But yeah, check all that stuff out. Come say hi to me. Let's be friends. But I'm going to let you go, and I hope you have a great, fantastic rest of your day, whatever you're doing. And I look forward to seeing you here again soon.